All right, hello, beautiful people, back again. I realized that this is actually very therapeutic. Co-parenting with a narcissist. This will be the last part about how we met. Because I need to move on. Um, I was speaking on how narcissists never learn. Well, they don't learn lessons like we do. So I was speaking on how when we were together, he had a car accident, and so due to him having a car accident, that kind of put a rift in his schedule because he had a certain routine and a certain schedule. So even though he was, being more responsible towards me than he had been toward any other female in his on his roster, that caused all the other people on the roster to start getting a little antsy and a little jealous because it seemed like he was choosing to spend more time with me over them. And that was not a anything to be proud of. To say that okay, this person has all these different people on his roster, but he's spending more time with me. That's nothing to brag about, and that's nothing to be proud of. It was just the way things shook out. The type of person I am is that if you tell me that you're going to do something, I expect you to keep your word. And you know that narcissists, they don't like accountability at all. So in him telling me that he was going to do things, I will say, are you going to do something? And he'll say, yes, he was going to do it. For some reason, he would always tell me, yes, he was going to do it. And then I would expect him to keep his word. So it wasn't a thing of whatever. It was just, I expected him to keep his word. And I guess maybe I was the only person that was actually holding him accountable. He would tell everybody anything, but he would actually do what he said. Now the problem though is you didn't know what time that was going to be. He was never on time. He was always late. And the reason why he was always late was because he was always telling people that he was going to do stuff. And he was never on time for anything. He even ended up working at my job for me. Like he literally worked for us, but he was always late. He was never on time. So that was the thing. If I needed to be somewhere, like a doctor's appointment or something, I would have to tell him that I had to be there like 30 minutes or an hour before. Like if my appointment was at 11, I told him it was at 10. So if I told him my appointment was at 10, we would get there by like 10:45. And sometimes I had to tell him it was 2 hours early. I'd rather sit in the waiting room for 30 minutes than to be late. So a lot of times I never told him what time my appointment was. I basically had to start playing his game with him. It was like being in a relationship with him was like playing chess. You know how they say chess, not checkers? That's exactly how it was. And that was mentally exhausting, mentally draining. I literally started having migraines while we were together. And I was already having migraines, from weather changes and different other reasons and stuff. But he made my migraines worse because it was literally like you had to be 3 or 4 steps ahead of him at all times in everything. That was mentally exhausting. Nobody should have to go through that just to be in a relationship or just to have a person do what they say they're going to do. Like you literally had to stay on top of him to make sure that the stuff that he was supposed to do as a human being, as a man, you had to literally stay on top of him. So, and you also think about that. He is a narcissist. So me having to stay on top of him to make sure things get done, that caused a lot of friction. But I'm a person that I did not back down. If something needs to be done, I'm going to make sure that it gets done the right way. Like, I'm not going to accept the bare minimum or I'm not supposed to be grateful just because you do something and it's something that I don't like or something I didn't ask for. He did a lot of stuff to try to make up for it, like when he was late or if he didn't do something when he was supposed to do it. He did a lot of, like, he was always like trying to make up. But I'm like, that stuff, the makeup stuff really doesn't matter to me because the fact is that the stuff could have been done. You just chose not to do it because you got too many people. You got too many people that you're trying to please. You got too many people that you're trying to keep around that you need to let go. But anyway, after the car accident happened, the people that were on his roster, they got very upset and very angry because he was MIA. Just think about it. If you're used to coming in contact with 4 or 5 different women on a daily basis, you're either calling them, texting them, or going to do stuff for them. And that, that's how you're keeping everybody on your roster. You're keeping everybody in rotation, basically. So this person texts you, this person call you, you got to basically figure out how you're going to please everybody. So there's never that many hours in the run of a day. Somebody's going to end up being mad. Somebody's going to end up being upset. So what I did, I just made sure that I wasn't the person that was mad or upset about anything in the run of a day, because I already knew what his system was and I knew how he was operating. And at that point, like I said, I knew it was a merry-go-round, and I knew that I wasn't on it. I wasn't on it anymore emotionally, and I wasn't on it physically because, like I said, he wasn't touching me. After I found out I was pregnant, he didn't touch me. So, I didn't want to take any chances of catching anything, especially with the fact that I was pregnant. So I had taken myself out of the picture emotionally and physically, but I was still there, because I was trying to make sure my child had, his father in his life or whatever. But anyway, on the outside looking in, it seemed like everything was working out. It seemed like he was doing what he was supposed to be doing. It seemed like he was finally being responsible, finally doing right by somebody. All these things, everybody thought, but all his other people was mad. They was angry. They was in their feelings. But it's like, don't ever look at somebody's relationship and be envious or jealous of it, because you don't know what that female is going through to be in that relationship. You don't know what they're dealing with and what they're going through. And males too. I can only speak from a female perspective, but don't be envious or jealous of anybody's relationship when they've been together for a long time, however long they stay together, because you don't know what they're dealing with or what they're having to go through to be in that, just to say they're in a relationship. But anyway, after the car accident, that changed the game for him, because he wasn't able to go and be with these people that he was used to being with. So of course he tried to take it out on me. So much so to the point where I literally told him that he could pack his bags and I will take him wherever it was that he really wanted to be. I said, because I'm the only one that's sitting here helping you and taking care of you, because he couldn't walk and he couldn't drive. So I had to take care of him. And I was pregnant and I was working too. But then I had to take on that responsibility of taking care of him after he had his car accident. And right after he had the car accident, it was funny because he kept trying to get to his phone and they wouldn't give him his phone. That was funny to me. Because, just think about it. All the information and stuff he had in his phone, he was so worried and paranoid about that phone when he got in the car accident. That's all he kept asking me about was his phone. Man, where my phone at? Man, you got my phone. Where my phone at? I'm like, man, don't worry about the phone. He had a concussion. He had 2 or 3 different injuries, but the concussion was the main one. They told him to stay off the phone, no watching TV, rest, all the things. And of course, with him being a narcissist, he did the complete opposite. But that messed up his whole rotation. And like I said, he got angry with me. And that changed the game in our relationship, because it changed it from me having to ask him for things to him having to depend on me for stuff. But at the end of the day, after the accident happened, he fought against me. Of course, he fought against me at every turn. But we actually survived that. I had my oldest child, and then we ended up having my baby. And like I said, that was a blessing as well when I had my baby. Even though he only touched me one time. Everybody, all it takes is one time to get pregnant. And it don't even have to last that long for you to get pregnant. All it takes is one drop. There's like thousands of sperm. I don't even know, but I know it's thousands of sperm in one drop of bodily fluid. So all it takes is one drop. So please, if you don't listen to nothing else that I have said, this whole thing, that's the background of how we met. That's a wrap on that. I shouldn't have to touch on the history and everything anymore. But yeah, that changed the game. But he didn't learn his lesson. He did not learn anything from that car accident. As soon as he was able to get back up and moving around, he went right back to the same old BS. Same old merry-go-round and trying to have all these 15,000 different women. So that is literally whenever I was like, you know what? He is not going to change. Because I would have learned my lesson. If I had gotten a car accident, that would have been my sign to sit down. But he didn't learn anything. And he still, when he comes to visit, he still has 4 or 5 different people calling him on his phone. So hopefully you learned something from me as I learned from you. And stay tuned for the next part, you guys.